Hello, friends. It's the last Strat Man coming to you with gear and coffee today. I'm going to be going over why the Klon Centaur pedal overdrive, the Klon Centaur Professional Overdrive is so iconic and what makes it Josh Scott's favorite overdrive from JHS. So this is what we're talking about today. I'll go ahead and hold it up for your viewing pleasure. Beautiful pedal. So this is my second one. My second Klon Centaur. I made a video recently talking about my encounter and my purchase by calling Klon Siberia with the 666 area code and ordering it from Vintage Guitar Magazine with Bill Finnegan. From Bill Finnegan. I ordered that when I was 17 years old. And he basically told me, as I said in that video, he asked me what I was running with it. I let him know I was running a twin reverb with a Strat. It was the exact same rig that he runs, vintage twin reverb, back then. He asked me what other pedals. I told him I had like a TS9 or a TS10. I had an 808 early on, an original 808, but I found long before Mayer played and everybody found out that Stevie and Mayer leaned towards the TS10 long before they were made popular many, many years because I was 17, 18, 19, 20. I always ran a TS10. I just felt it sounded tighter. It sounded better than the 9s and the 808s. But I told him I was running a Tube Screamer next to it. He says, look, if you're going to run it with the Tube Screamer, Bill Finnegan, this is on our call when I'm ordering the Klon for, I think it was $325 with a 3-month wait. Ended up sending him like a money order or something, or a check, one or the other. But $325, 90-day wait, 3-month wait list for Klon back then. So that was 23 years ago. I'm now 40 years old. Had a run of 18 years as a professional guitarist, singer, songwriter, lead guitarist, fronting bands, solo acoustic, but mainly being a blues rock guitarist. But he told me word for word when he asked me what I was running it with. I told him a Tube Screamer. He says, well, if you're going to run it next to a Tube Screamer, I'm not even going to sell you the effing thing. And we ended up having a good talk. Didn't let my ego or my masculinity, manhood get in the way of him being an ass or with a snide comment like that. And purchased the pedal. Got it 3 months later. Ended up selling it to a friend about a month after I had it because at the time I was playing 2 vibroverbs. One was a custom shop vibroverb with an EV in it. EV15L. And I also had like a Vibra clone, if you will, made from a Bandmaster reverb head that had been black faced, you know, just the panel and the faceplate, and put into a 15 cab. And I also had an EV15L in that one as well. Essentially, I was running it like I would my Tube Screamer, to where I would have the output, you know, turned up about halfway or more, and the gain down, and it was essentially blowing my tube amps. And that's the way I wanted to run it. It's because I was so used to running a Tube Screamer, you know, getting the level to about 2 o'clock, unless, you know, the whole night, the whole, show, unless it was at the end playing Voodoo Child, and I would max the level out to get the most sustain and turn the gain all the way up for Voodoo Child. With my band at the time. Anyway, it was like, you know, blowing my preamp and power tubes, like just smoking my amps. And so I ended up falling out of love with it really quick. I was excited to get it and excited to let it go. I sold it for $175 to a good friend of mine named Dale in North Carolina. And great player, collects vintage Strats and guitars, and a good friend of mine for many, many years. Just a dear friend of mine. Well, he told me I wanted to buy the Klon back about 5 years later. He says, I'm not selling you the Klon, man. You know, he's country from North Carolina. Not selling you the Klon. So many years, he says, if I do sell it, I'll sell it to you. Well, come to find out, he sold it for, I think it was about $800 or $1,000, maybe a little bit more, years later. And he never told me. So he finally told me, maybe it was $1,700 cash when they were starting to really go up. He told me some gentleman offered that at a gig for him, like $1,700 cash, I think is what it was. And I was pissed. But I wanted it just because it had become, super collectible and worth, 10x the money that they were new. Anyway, I didn't get that back, and I haven't had one until I got this one recently. It's like essentially almost mint, other than a couple, 2 or 3 nicks on it. And it's a dead mint Klon, but it's minus the back plate. I had the gentleman that sold it to me had replaced the back plate, and I could find a new one if I wanted it to be completely original, which I probably do. It won't be original though, because it didn't actually. It would be original, but it wouldn't be of the original unit. So I'm kind of here nor there. I don't plan on selling this thing, but I'll get one maybe just to make it complete, if you will. But anyway, so I returned to the Klon. What is it? 23 years later, essentially. I had an Archer, which I really liked. I like the Archer. The silver, I think, is the best clone. There's a lot of good ones out there for a good, price, of course. But I like the silver Archer the most. I tried the Icon, the gold Archer. Didn't like it near as much as the silver one. But what I had was the silver Centaur with no horsey. It just said Centaur on it when I ordered mine. So I just got this one, and I have some videos up. You can check my my page, and if you would like, and subscribe if you want to see a lot more demos. I'm going to be bringing essentially knowledge from an 18-year career, playing full-time professionally as a Strat player. I played Les Pauls, played early 60s, 335, but mainly Strat all along. I've always been a Strat guy. But you can check my videos. Please subscribe and like. It would mean a lot to me. I'm going to be going all in. I've been considering doing this over the years, but it's time. At 40 years old, I kind of want to do this as a labor of love to give back to the guitar community. As sour as it has become online, the sour people are the ones that make the most noise. This is for people that want value from my 18-year experience as a professional player and touring and traveling. And also playing local. I've opened up for ZZ Top a handful of times, Skinner a few times, Kenny Wayne Shepherd in Double Trouble, Joe Bonamassa at the 2005 Lake Austin Blues Festival, Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Double Trouble at the Lake Austin Blues Festival. We were the only band to play both nights, and we co-headlined with these people, with Kenny Wayne and Double Trouble, as well as Joe Bonamassa on Lake Austin in 2005. That was right before I moved back to Florida, where I'm at now. I was living in North and South Carolina. But all kinds of people, Bonnie Raitt, Lyle Lovett, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, opened up for a lot of people. But anyway, back in 2016, I got my real estate license. My wife was pregnant, got on a TV show. My band was slated to win. We had the most votes, come to find out. And it was on MTV Live, MTV Classic, and Pop TV. It was called American Supergroup, which has now been taken down. Well, the creators of that show, the day before the live finale, which was judged by Aloe Black, who was super nice, Jennifer Nettles, she was very kind, Elle King, not a fan of her. She was very rude, very just a little cocky, a little too cocky. And Jason Scheff from Chicago, the bassist and singer for Chicago now. He was fantastic, great player, really nice, or neutral, I'll say. But, much love to all of them. But my group was going to win. The day before the finale, I got a call from Gary Bridges, the owner of the show, essentially, and told me that the show, they had blown their budget. So that was 3 months in on a show in Nashville. I had just got actively licensed here in Florida as a real estate agent because I was throwing in the towel. I hadn't gotten signed. And I came back and started real estate. So I've been doing real estate for 8 years now. I sell luxury and commercial real estate. And I also do consulting for big projects, developments and stuff like that throughout the country, as well as abroad. But that's what I'm doing now. But I'm bringing y'all 18 years of hardcore, show experience, playing from zero, 5 people in the crowd to 10,000, opening up for people in front of 10,000 people multiple times. So I'm here to provide value. I'm not here, if the haters get stirred up, that's great. It means I'm doing something right. But we all know that the people that are unhappy are the ones who make the most noise. The ones who are getting value are the ones who enjoy it and continue to, support by watching and subscribing. So that's who this is for. anyone who gets value. If I'm just talking to one person, that's more than enough. I've gone on way too long as I do. I'm long-winded. But back to the Klon and why it is the Josh Scott's favorite overdrive. Josh Scott uses this the opposite way that most players use it for, and also what the Klon is known for. The Klon is known for being the best clean boost on the market, period. It adds just a little bit of mid-range when you have the gain all the way down, just a hair. It just kind of beautifies your tone a little bit, makes it stand out a little bit more, of course with the boost, but the mid-range frequency that it adds the low mids to your tone. Josh Scott loves and runs his by goosing the gain for having a hard rock sound. Well, honestly, I find that the magic truly in the Klon is it sounds great with the gain up, okay? Just so you can see it for the purpose of understanding what I'm talking about. Having the boost up where it's gonna be hitting your front end a little bit harder. This is where I run it, about like this. And I run with the gain a little bit more. So you're getting some of that mid-range, lower mid-range push a lot more in the circuit. So as you know, or don't know, the Klon has a stacked pot in it on the gain. This stacked pot is blending in clean channel. This is all essentially just about almost all clean channel over this way, turned all the way down with the gain. As you roll the gain up, you're taking out the clean and blending in more of the overdrive circuit of the Klon. And as you do that, there's a magical low mid-range that only happens with, I believe, and I thought after spending time away from a Klon for so many years that all these pedals were doing it. When I plugged this Klon in the other day, I realized how far off to the ears in person and the feel they truly are. This reminded me, and I knew immediately when I turned this thing on, that that's the sound that can only be had with this or a Klon or a part for part Klon. And I've heard of people making them, and but it's got to be part for part. I think it's got to be not a small board. I think it's got to be full size, resistors, diodes. I'm drawing a blank on what they're called, but anyway, the circuit, I think they need to be full size resistors and components with a big board. I think that's the whole deal. I don't think it needs to be shrunk down with, small parts like they're having to do in the Klon remakes. So this right here is the key. Like if you're looking for that tone, that's great. It's real fine. Most people don't think about it or won't notice it. My ears I'm so used to hearing things, to such a finite detail from playing for so long that when something's not hitting, I know it immediately. And then I find something I like and I try to perfect it. It's what I've done with my lead channel from years of using the Honeybee amps clean drive. I don't like the SRV land. It's not for me, but I feel the clean drive is one of the best overdrive pedals ever made for a Strat, hands down. One that I don't have here with me is that I just recently got is a version 2 Blues Power. I have a demo of that, so y'all be sure to subscribe, check out the videos that I already have posted. Is the Blues Power by Kingtone, the V2 version 2, and they're like really close. I had to spend a lot more time dialing in the version 2 because of the new dip switches that are on the version 2 of the Blues Power. As I did that, I realized at first I was thinking, I don't like this as much as the clean drive. Then I realized after I got the dip switches set right, which I'll share with you now because I just kind of remember from yesterday when I made the video, the only switch that is on the 4 dip switches of the scooped is off, the cranked is off. What else is there? There's three different dip switches: cranked, scooped, a Kingtone switch, and something else. I can't remember what it is, but essentially the only one dip switch that I have on is the Kingtone switch. That's what brought the magic out in the Blues Power version 2. No scooped, no cranked switch on the dip switches of the new version 2 Blues Power. Just turn on the Kingtone switch if you have a Strat, or if you have whatever, start from there. Turn the gain up, a quarter of the way, halfway, max the gain. I like it maxed out. It will sound great wherever you're at on the dial, okay? Same with the clean drive, but the blues power is just a little bit more usable for the full frequency sweep of the gain. But what I found between that and the clean drive was the blues power V2, like the version 1, which I do prefer more because there's less questions. I just remember setting it on, I think I had it on punch, and I switched it to transparent, if there's something like transparent on the inside switch of the V1 of the blues power. Anyway, the clean drive comparatively is softer. It has a little bit better compression feel, I believe. It's a little bit softer on the EQ with the Strat. The blues power is very detailed in the mid-range. It's got a little bit more mid-range, but the way that it's detailed is more than the clean drive. It's got more detail. So the roll-off of the clean drive by Honeybee amps is incredible. The roll-off on the V2 of the blues power is absolutely incredible as well. Excuse me. While sharing that, when you roll your volume off, it maintains your more unity level of volume when you're using the blues power. The Honeybee amps clean drive, you lose a little bit more volume. Still one of the best. It was the best overdrive pedal roll-offs I've ever had. But the blues power too, the detail and the roll-off volume staying up, the detail is better. But I'm going back and forth. At first I like this. Now that I compare it to the blues power. Now that I tried the blues power and dialed it in, it's really close to this, but it has more detail. With sharing that, I'm going to be pushing the clean drive or the blues power with the Klon. And I'm going to have the volume up just with a little bit of boost because I'm not needing much. And the gain about right here to add some of that mid-range. I noticed that with the mid-range of this going into the blues power, my video I made yesterday, be sure to check it out, of my full pedal board, which is not even a pedal board. It's just together. I got a board and I got some pedals I'm trying to see what's going to stick. That's why I'm doing all this. Trying stuff out. This mid-range that you're adding in is magical, but I feel with the clean drive, which I haven't tried, which I'll be making a video today, is comparing the Klon running into with a little bit of gain and a little bit of boost to give me a lead sound, a full lead sound with the gain up on the blues power V2 or the clean drive. With this being softer, the clean drive by Honeybee amps, with it being softer, I think it's going to handle being pushed with the Klon better. If it does, then I will only be using the clean drive, and I'll probably order a clean drive and sell the double trouble or keep the double trouble. But I'm just going to be running a clean drive because I don't need the SRV land side. But I do love the way it looks, so hell, I might keep it right on my board and just let it be bigger. But back to it. How Josh Scott uses a Klon, he gooses this. And I'm here to tell you that this sound, a Klon, a real Klon or a part for part clone, I'm talking part for parts. You got to do it right. I haven't heard one yet, but you got to do it right. A big board Klon with this gain all the way up or halfway up or 3/4, whatever. Once you start getting this gain up, this is gain that is not heard in any other overdrive pedal. The way that it saturates, the richness and the feedback and the relationship it has with an amp is like nothing I've ever played, and I couldn't believe it. So I got my rig in here at volume in the living room the other day, and even with the gain all the way down and pushing just the boost of this by itself, I was getting feedback into my push clean plexi style rig. 50 watt plexi style, it's really 100 watt. But this thing sounded incredible and I was blown away. I turned the gain up and it just got more magical. I turned the gain up, and I'm telling you, this has about 4 or 5 times my ears are hearing as a blues power or a regular overdrive that has some pretty substantial overdrive like the clean drive. This has so much more gain. It was unbelievable. So when I started hearing that magic, now it's too much of a mid push for me in a Strat. It's just a sound that I can't dig with. But at the same time, I'm in a relationship now with the Klon as a player, and I'm just being blown away by it, what it can do with other drive pedals, pushing them. A good friend of mine, Justin Smith, uses this after his overdrives because he likes the tone, but I'm going to try it today. But I think it's going to give too much of that Klon coloration. I'd rather have coloration coming from the clean drive or the blues power, a good Strat overdrive, and having this pushing it. But this is hard clipping. right? This is soft clipping, you know, something like a King of Tone or a Clone. This is a part for part clone of the King of Tone. And it was a pedal that I designed, but it's essentially a part for part clone, except you have a high gain switch on it. And a lot of people were talking shit, you know, hating on me for developing this, but I came up with my own logo. Yes, it looks like a King of Tone, but when I was selling these and only sold a handful of custom-made King of Tone clones called the Zone of Tone. My name's Zach, so I named it the Zone of Tone. These things rock. I actually drilled this trying to fit another circuit into this, but it ended up just being a little off, so I just got a drilled case. This is soft clipping, but when you get in the distortion, it will be hard clipping with a high gain switch or the three-way dip switches where you can have boost, overdrive, or distortion for each channel, but then you also have a high gain switch. So this right here, this soft clipping, even the distortion is a little bit smoother than the distortion with the Centaur, which is hard clipping, and so is the distortion. And this is hard clipping, is my understanding. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. If I am, fantastic. Regardless, this is smooth. This kind of tone of this King of Tone sound will work for just about any amp you plug it into. The Klon is not going to work into just about every circuit. It can if you're using it as a boost, but it's not as friendly with rigs. Something that's less friendly with rigs is the clean drive style. The clean drive style is with Fenders, it's great, but it can be very harsh. I dial this tone when I play live almost all the way back, because as you turn the gain up on the clean drive, it gets brighter. The King Tone, I have the gain behind halfway, the treble behind halfway, because it gets harsh as you turn up. So these are the least agreeable pedals, like the clean drive. You got to have your rig right, have it being pushed already, I feel. Running this, something like the clean drive or the Blues Power into a clean amp, something that's not already pushed a little bit for that push clean strat tone is not the way to go. But do yourself a favor and try all these out. The hard clipping, this is something I got my hands on. I'm just showing y'all some of these cool pedals. Is a mint, almost as close to mint as I've ever found. It's not mint. Early 80s sonic distortion. This is a real deal. It's Japan. It's all original. Got the, you know, two-sided the pedal board tape on it, the hook and loop, but the hard stuff. And this thing rocks. But what I found is this gain of the hard clipping of the sonic distortion is it's not pleasant on the ears, even though my push clean is a little soft and it takes pedals better than any rig I've ever used. The sonic distortion, unless I was just using it for a bridge pickup strat alone and dialing it in, I would use it for that and only that. Sharing that information, it's still a little too grainy for me. So that's kind of where it's at. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that. But essentially, Josh Scott is using this to gain it out and make a rock sound. And I'm going to demo that for you in this video that I make today. That's my sweet wife coming in. But yeah, so I'm going to let you hear what it sounds like. I'm going to push some pedals with it. But the main focus of today's video is going to be the Klon, running it how Josh Scott uses it, you know, by goosing, turning up the gain. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. It's the last Strat Man coming to you. I wanted to talk about the Klon and fallen in love with this pedal and all it can do, because I think it's actually a Swiss Army knife, come to find out, instead of just being a clean boost like everybody says it's only good for. So y'all stick around. Be sure to like and subscribe. God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.